Some people would tell you, some ministers would say, oh, these are the parts, sometimes there are these parts of the Gospels or the Bible that aren't very important, and they're just stuff in between the good stuff. I don't see these that way. They don't relate really to the parables we've been talking about, except they do in that they're an aspect. Each one is an aspect of what it is to be a disciple of Jesus, a follower of Jesus. Remember, Jesus said, "Follow me." And that doesn't mean, get in a line and we'll do a conga line as he walks through the Holy Land. He had trouble with the high kicks, I understand. But it means to do what he did. Do what I'm teaching you to do. Live the way I live. So, in that way, these are important. The first one, and we'll go to the scripture, the first one is about stumbling blocks. And we could also say there are stumbling blocks, and there are also, one scholar calls them scandals. Nobody's ever had a scandal in your life? You never had anything in your life that felt like it was very serious? That someone said something, did something, and all of a sudden you felt like, your reputation was damaged. People will no longer like you, whatever. We've all had those kind of things happen. I can remember, you probably can go back to grade school and remember that Joe in your class or Harriet said something unkind, and so many kids joined in and thought it was funny to call you a name or something. I've had a few names in my life. One of the neighbors I had when I lived in a house when I was about 9 to about 14, he used to have a nickname for me, and of course I didn't like it. He called me Meatball. Yeah. And I felt shamed by that. So it was kind of scandalous. So we have these situations that happen in life. It's an interesting little piece. And he said to his disciples, this is from the 17th chapter, begins right at the beginning of the chapter, verse 1. And he said to his disciples, temptations to sin are sure to come. Would you say that's false? Do you ever have all of a sudden something flies through your mind and it was a negative thought and you thought, where'd that come from? Or to go even further, I had a negative thought. Well, I guess I have to say it. Or I guess I have to hold on to this and think about it. Wrong. There are plenty of opportunities. Remember, sin, the word in English comes from an archery term, to miss the target, to miss the mark, not to measure up to that Jesus Christ standard. And that's a standard of truth thinking, reality thinking. Remember, what is true is real. We have a lot of thoughts that are about things that appear but have no reality to them whatsoever. They have as much reality as that water down on the highway a little bit in front of you when it's a sunny day and it's hot and you see the water that you never get to. You know what I'm talking about? It's a mirage. We have a lot of mirages. We see a lot of things that aren't real, not the way we interpret them. So, there are many opportunities, temptations, sure to come. But woe to him by whom they come. Not to whom they come, but by whom they come. Jesus is now talking about stumbling blocks. And in this case, he's talking about the one who experiences the stumbling block as a result of someone else's activity. Or, and this is the hard part of it, us, when we do something to harm another, to put a stumbling block in front of someone else. You know, sometimes, so I get called meatball. Well, now I just have great fun calling so-and-so such term of endearment that makes them turn bright red or makes them angry. Then it's on me. So it's us when we take on that role, not the victim, but the perpetrator, when we do it. A variety of ways people do that. A variety of ways we put stumbling blocks in other people. Some of them are very simple. It happens to a lot of kids. Oh, I'd like to be such and such. Oh, you're not smart enough. You'll never be able to do that. Just get that out of your head. Did you ever hear anything like that in your life? A lot of us do. I have a cartoon that I used to think a lot of. It was a child, a boy, about that tall, walking down the street, and his head was down as he was walking. And all around him, in the area around the figure of him, was the word no in a variety of sizes, fonts, as if these were the words of the people in his life. No, you can't do that. No, you're not smart enough. No, you're not good enough. Those are stumbling blocks. It was a long time before one of the ones that I got in fourth grade. I was handed this stumbling block, and I carried it around until about after I opened this church. I was 38 when I opened it. And it was some time later. Fourth grade. We were doing the general music teacher had the classes doing, the fourth grade classes doing some kind of musical presentation. I think it was a musical play, as I remember. I didn't have a solo part, but I was part of the chorus. Everybody was part of the chorus. And at one point she came to me and she said, "Billy, would you just mouth the words?" What did that do to me? What did that stumbling block do? I accepted it, number one. And secondly, I didn't sing in public ever. Ever. Till I had to here to start songs and things. When I was traveling as a road musician, at one point, the act that I worked for, when we did the showrooms all around North America, one day at rehearsal, one of the guys in the act said, "Greg, we need you to do some backup vocals." I said, "Oh, I get paid not to sing." You get paid not to sing. That week, there was a $50 raise in my pay, and I didn't have to sing. You've heard the expression, speak the word? Well, apparently it works. Yeah, I didn't have to sing. So, this is not only about those who put stumbling blocks in our path, who do things that in some way inhibit us, block our good, or block us from seeking our good, or when we do it to others. And in this case, when Jesus was speaking, he was especially speaking about putting stumbling blocks in front of his disciples, cause them to make mistakes or sin or be disloyal. I think Jesus in this case looks like a realist, and he understands that some of his followers will make mistakes. They'll fall away from the truth standard. And he probably understands that some of his followers are going to do this to other people. I can remember when I first found Unity, telling people that I went to this church called Unity. Oh, what do you want to go there for? That's a cult. Just think if I'd have paid attention to that. Would have changed my life, not for the better. And then I wouldn't know you, would I? Yeah. But one of the interesting things, we'll go on. It would be better for him if a millstone were hung around his neck and he were cast into the sea than that he should cause one of these little ones to sin. Sounds like he's talking about children, isn't he? Doesn't it? Sounds like children. One of these little ones. He's talking about the disciples. Little ones. It reminds us of, in the 10th chapter, 21st verse of Luke, thou hast hidden these things from the wise and understanding and revealed them to babes. It indicates someone who is innocent, trusting, and perhaps helpless to certain influences or certain manipulations and things like that. Well, if you're looking to see the good in everybody, and perhaps the disciples had that opportunity, it's easy to cut everybody a break, right? And find out that they have other things in mind. So he's speaking of them as little ones. But aren't we all little ones? Compared to Jesus, if you put Jesus and say, well, let's make him 21 years old. He's an adult in spirituality. Where are we? Want to put an age on it? 3, 5, 15, 20? We're working towards it. So, in comparison, we're little children. Young in understanding. That's why he's using that expression. And sometimes we all look and appear a little helpless, a little open and too receptive to what comes at us from the world. A lot of stuff. So, in life, things happen. You remember that Jesus said that? In life, you have tribulation. Stuff happens. People say things. Not everybody says the kindest words. Not everybody tells you how wonderful you are. Not everybody recognizes that because of the glasses they're wearing, and by that I mean their state of consciousness. You can be at a certain state of awareness or consciousness, of thought and belief and attitude, that it's very difficult to see the sunrise, for seeing gloom and doom. impossibility. So, in life we have opportunities to experience challenges, and we all make mistakes. But what do we do about them? We make mistakes because we get caught up in the outside, what's going on out here, taking information in through our five senses, how it appears, how it looks to our eyes, what our intellect seems to discern of something. Remember, the five senses don't tell you about the nature of reality. Did you ever get burned on something and then realize it wasn't hot? It was cold? How accurate was that sense? You need the five senses to give you an idea of where you are in time and space. You need those five senses to tell you when you put your hand down and it's really hot, you need to move it. But they don't tell you about the nature of yourself, of your being. That's not something you get through your eyes. You get it through another pair called insight, inner vision, inner understanding. When you look at the Old Testament and the New Testament, throughout both the New and Old Testament, the prophets in the Old Testament and Jesus in the New Testament as well, as his apostles, as his followers, they all emphasize the importance of those people who have a certain amount of enlightenment. They have a responsibility to others, to be the truth, to demonstrate the truth, to speak the truth. I know there are other ministers who use the same sentence I do when I've done weddings. And in the part of the wedding where I'm doing vows with the couple, with each one of them I have an opportunity to say, and will you do these and this and this, and speak the truth to him or her in love? Do we do that to one another? Do we do that to everyone? Sometimes it's much easier to bark. You bothered me. You got in my way. It's not convenient. Go away. Leave me alone. To speak the truth to others in love. The millstone. That's a weight. That's quite a weight, isn't it? It reminds me of a thing called karma. Karma. What does a weight like a millstone do for you? It's a burden. It's something you carry that makes walking and makes doing things more difficult. Isn't that true of guilt and shame? Isn't that true of the challenges that come when we make mistakes in life? When we do the wrong thing? And remember, it's not something out there that's saying, you're a bad person, I'm going to punish you. We are punished by what we do. There's a house over in Northeast. And it's interesting because when you drive around the back of it, there's a street that curves around and comes behind it. And you look up and there's a second floor door. There's no porch. There's just a second floor door. If you would open that door and step out, you'd be punished for what you did, right? By falling down to the ground. It's not because somebody said, ooh, you're a bad person. It's because of what you did. The result of that would equal, my bedroom when I lived with my grandmother had a door out to what had been a porch. Now, out there, the stone foundation around it was there, but right outside the door, the deck was gone. Never walked out of that door in my life. Never. Because I was smart. We understand, you know. You put your hand on a hot stove, it's going to hurt. Nobody's saying, ooh, I'm going to get you because you did that. It's what we did. When you do something to another, at some level in you, you feel guilt, remorse, regret. Sometimes we feel regret, but the ego says, I'm going to bluff this through. I'm just going to act like they deserved it. Yeah. So, Charles Fillmore had an interesting thing to say about this, and I'm going to quote him. Those who stumble hurt themselves, but those who cause the stumbling receive the greater hurt. Because it's not a physical hurt, and may not be an emotional hurt, but it's a spiritual hurt. And he went on to talk about that inner realm is perfect justice and balance. If we fail to measure up to the Christ standard, and Charles Fillmore often spoke about the Jesus Christ standard, trying to live to that Jesus Christ standard. And he considered that a standard of justice, of mercy, of right action. If we fail to live up to that, we receive the same measure of challenge that the negative thought processes, the negative actions that we do bring upon others when we do them. So it's a what you give, you receive. Remember that law? And there's a law of increase. And he also speaks about the law of increase. It can be the same, you can get the same or more. Whew. Why would I not do anything like this if I were consciously making the choice? Because I don't want the increase. Thank you. I don't want more negative stuff in my life. I don't want more negative interactions with life. Do you? So it's an important point for us to not be a stumbling block, not even silently call people names. This is confession time because it's the truth. Driving, I don't necessarily say it out loud, but you'd be surprised sometimes the names for people that fly through my head. And you know what? I'm going to bet you that just as many people, maybe more people, are thinking the same thing about me. Because what I give out, I'm going to get back. And I'd rather get the good. Now, the next passage. Take heed to yourselves. If your brother sins, rebuke him, and if he repents, forgive him. So, the first principle about discipleship is don't be a stumbling block. Don't give out to anyone what you don't want to get back. And now, if someone does something to you, if someone sins with you, rebuke him. Means tell the person what's wrong. Tell the person, And there's a way to do that. You hurt my feelings, and you should never say that to me. How receptive would you be to that? You know, Frank, when you say such and such, I start to really think that I'm less than a valuable human being. And I'd like to ask you to, rethink that. Is that a different way of doing it? When you do such and such, this is how I feel. Rather than saying, you do this to me, you make me, you can't do that. They don't. I think many times you're going to find somebody, they don't realize what they do. Remember Jesus on the cross. Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Yeah, he was so smart. He forgave them for the crucifixion while it was happening. We'd wait until later and then have to be talked into it and bribed. He did it on the spot before it was even over. A lot of times we don't know what we do, and after we do it, we may not know until somebody says, hey, that hurts when you say that. I know it's my stuff, but it hurts. Okay. I don't want to do that, so I'm not going to say that to you anymore. Thank you very much. Then when they have remorse, you forgive. You forgive. You let it go. What's the reason for forgiving? To free them? Yeah, sure. But how about freeing yourself? Because if you don't forgive them, what do you have then? Usually some kind of negative thoughts about them, right? Yeah, and it was Emmett Fox who said that when you hold animosity about another, when you have negative thoughts about another person, you are bound to that person as with chains of steel. Folks, if I'm hurt by them, upset by them, the last thing I want to do is be chained to them. And it is I who has to cut the chain. And we cut the chain by forgiving, letting go, releasing them and releasing ourselves. Forgiveness is a common theme for Luke. He talks about it a lot, except mostly when he talks about it, it is God forgiving us. Well, we're created in the image and likeness of God, right? So it is for us. The Son of Man has the power to forgive sin. Jesus essentially says, tell the person what the error is. And if the person accepts the correction, forgive them. Let it go. The idea of rebuke. The whole goal of this is that the offender rethinks what they do, rethinks their action. I've had people say to me, when you say such and such or do such and such, I feel this way. And I didn't realize that the words or the concept had that power to do that. So I would rethink. That's what we're supposed to do. Sometimes it takes me 2 or 3 times to get the message and rethink. But the whole goal is to rethink, reevaluate. Luke has a version of the Lord's Prayer, and in that, it's in the 11th chapter of Luke, verse 4, 11:4. He says, forgive us our sins, for we ourselves forgive everyone who is indebted to us. He's making it a statement. And the question is, do we? Do we? Well, let's hope that we can release and let go. And of course, the last one, and if he sins against you 7 times in the day and turns to you 7 times and says, I repent, you must forgive him. Mary Magdalene, remember she supposedly had 7 devils? 7 evil spirits, and she had them cast out. Well, the 7 indicates that she was totally nuts. It's complete. Until she had them removed, till she was healed. So 7 is a number of completion in this material world. So to completely forgive, to completely release, for the person to completely seek to be clear also from the other side. The statement, I repent, 7 times. I forgive 7 times. In other words, how long is it going to take? How many times do you need to do it until it's complete? Till it's accomplished. Faith is that faculty that you always have, and it doesn't work to pray for more because you have it. You have it because it's one of those 12 powers of God and 12 faculties within man. But it's where do you put it? Faith seems to be one of the most important faculties in our lives. And at times the disciples are said to have had little faith. Does that mean that they had a small amount? No. They had the full amount like everybody else. But what were they doing? They were putting it in the wrong thing. They were working with somebody who needed healing and they couldn't heal them. And Jesus said, oh, you have little faith. The faith was more in the presence of the disease rather than the health and wholeness of God. It has to be invested in truth, in the positive outcome, no matter how difficult it seems to be. And that's true with whatever you're seeking to pray about or work on. Faith needs to be invested in its presence, not its absence. Because what you invest that faith in is what becomes enlarged. Remember, faith is the perceiving power of the mind, Charles said. The power of your mind to perceive some good. And it's linked with the power to shape substance, to lay hold of the energy and bring it forth. Draw that good to you. So you have to have that faith invested in its presence if you want it present in your life. We all like presents, don't we? It was one of my most common questions when I was a kid. Where's my present? My folks went to New York when I was about, 4. They got back and I said, where's my present? Was I a spoiled child? I heard this, and you still are. That's my own devil. The third, the 3 aspects of discipleship. Being a beneficial presence and not a stumbling block. Having faith, being able to invest your faith in the presence and power of God, and to let go and forgive. That's why I think these are important. They're things we need to do. I invite you to close your eyes for a moment. I'm going to revisit our opening statement. It is for me to be mindful of my thoughts. It is for me to be mindful of my thoughts. Together. It is for me to be mindful of our thoughts. The cause of challenges in my life and affairs. Together. the cause of challenges in my life and affairs.